here's the thing. If you've got a team of 3, 4, 5 people, 10 people, it's a lot easier to keep everybody in line, and it's a lot easier to maintain, I say in quotes, the culture. Because you're right next to everybody. I remember, in our first office, we all sat in the same room. That is very easy to manage the culture, but then as you grow and you introduce more people into the organization, more complexity into the organization, maybe you're not seeing everybody every single day. Maybe there's certain people you meet with, but others you don't meet with. And let's say the organization grows to a point, you've got over 100 people. Maybe there's people you have never even met that are on your payroll that you pay every single 2 weeks that you have never even met them. And this used to seem like a wild concept to me. I thought, how could that ever happen? But it happens because as your organization grows and scales, I used to interview every single person. That meant that I would meet every single person. But now we delegate authority to a lot of our leaders. So the only people that I'm meeting and interviewing are their executive leadership, right? Now, of course, I meet the whole team. But in terms from an interview standpoint, someone could get hired at Crisp and I had not met them prior to them getting hired because we're hiring all the time. The company's growing and I'm not making those hiring decisions for every single role. That's, otherwise I would be a bottleneck. So how do you preserve the culture? And we hear about this with a lot of firms and they start to expand. They start to have multiple locations, multiple different practices, and sometimes in different cities or different states. And they say, hey, look, at our home base, at our worldwide headquarters, the culture is great. But in this other market, in this other location, it's like, how do we keep it consistent? Because they're just behaving differently over there than they are over here, right? So it's just like, how do we keep this aligned? Because I can't just travel and visit every single firm every single day. I can't be in multiple places at the same time. So here's what it really comes down to. As your organization scales, you're going to have more complexity. And if you want to keep your culture aligned, you're going to also have to be able to scale yourself. And the best way to do that is your leadership team grows, is to make sure that you are aligned with your leaders. So I can't possibly make sure that everybody is doing everything they need to be doing all the time, and that they're behaving in the way they need to be behaving, and that they're aligning with our values all the time, because it's just impossible. I wouldn't even have the bandwidth to do it. I have the same number of hours in a day as everybody else. So we rely on our leaders, and we have good rhythms where every single week we meet with our leadership team and our executive leadership team, and we make sure that we are in alignment. So, it's hiring the right people that you can make sure that kind of uphold the values that you've set. And you've got different department heads. So as long as you are in alignment with that department head, with that leader, then they're going to pass along that same messaging and they're going to reinforce the same standards, because we make sure that we are aligned on standards. There's not one person who says, well, I got A standards, but over here they got B standards. That doesn't last very long. So as long as you are united as a leadership team, let's say you're aligned with your leaders or your managers or your department heads, whatever you call them, right? Whoever is kind of the next line of authority that's meeting one-on-one with those teams or those various team members, then you can preserve that culture as well that way.